The world stands on edge as global crises converge. At the UN in New York, leaders face turbulence not seen in decades. From Ukraine's fight for survival to Russia's jets testing NATO, tensions are rising. Zelensky calls for unity. Yushchenko targets Moscow, and Estonia warns of escalation. The 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly opens this week in New York amid mounting global crises. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky described the upcoming days as an intense week of diplomacy. He is scheduled to attend nearly 24 scheduled meetings, including discussions with US President Donald Trump and a global summit on the return of Ukrainian children abducted by Russia. Zelensky emphasized the importance of strong international support, saying progress in diplomacy is essential for bringing the war closer to an end.
We are now preparing for a very intense week, a week of diplomacy. We can accomplish a lot if our partners hear us and support proposals that truly bring the end of the war closer. There will be an important event on the return of Ukrainian children abducted by Russia, a truly global summit on this issue. It is vital that this week strengthen the world's resolve for robust action, for without strength, peace will not prevail.
World leaders will gather at a moment of extraordinary turbulence. Secretary-General Antonio Guterres underscored the stakes, noting that international cooperation is straining under pressures unseen in modern times. Leaders face conflicts in Ukraine, Gaza, and Sudan, rising inequalities, and rapidly advancing technologies that challenge global governance.
We are facing a global crisis. Conflicts are multiplying in the context in which geopolitical divides do not allow to effectively address them. There is a sense of impunity. Every country believes they can do whatever they want. So in this context, we absolutely need leaders to come here and to turn the tide, to come here and understand that international cooperation is vital in a moment like this, to come here and do the negotiations and the mediations that are necessary to at least create hope for peace in some of the situations we are facing. I believe that there will be a clear demonstration that the overwhelming majority of the countries in the world recognize the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, recognize that there must be a Palestinian state and recognize it in the meeting we'll have on Monday, and at the same time send a very clear message that the carnage that is happening in Gaza has to end, that we need a ceasefire immediately with the release of all hostages immediately too. The suffering of the Sudanese people is horrible. So I think it's time for the Security Council to be able to take, with the agreement of all the key powers, very tough measures on Sudan. As we live in a world of impunity, it is easy for countries that see the examples of big powers waging war, as in the case of the Ukraine. There is a stimulus for mid-sized countries to try to solve their ambitions or their problems through war, instead of negotiation, instead of compromise. And this is becoming a pattern that needs to be strongly opposed. But the most important message is to the countries in the world that have obligations under international law, under international refugee law, that their doors must be open, that refugees must be seen their rights respected.
The General Assembly's agenda includes debates on security guarantees for Ukraine, the two-state solution for Israel and Palestine, and the ongoing nuclear tensions with Iran. Guterres plans to leverage hundreds of one-on-one meetings to encourage dialogue, bridge divides, and promote concrete action, urging nations to move beyond rhetoric toward measurable progress. Financial constraints also loom over the UN, as budget cuts by the United States and other members will reduce regular operations and staff. Amid these challenges, the Assembly is expected to highlight both the limitations and potential of multilateral diplomacy, reflecting a world in flux yet still seeking avenues for cooperation. Meanwhile, Former Ukrainian President Viktor Yushchenko has urged Kyiv to fight until Moscow is taken, rejecting calls to settle along current front lines. In an interview, he argued that reclaiming only lost territories leaves future generations with unresolved problems. The United Nations Security Council is set to hold an emergency meeting today, September 22, 2025, following Russia's alleged violation of Estonian airspace. On September 19th, 3 Russian MiG-31 fighter jets allegedly entered Estonian airspace over the Gulf of Finland without permission, remaining there for 12 minutes, according to the Estonian Foreign Ministry. NATO forces intercepted the Russian jets, with Italian F-35 fighters warning and escorting them out of their airspace as part of the Baltic air policing mission. Estonia condemned the incursion as a blatant, reckless and flagrant violation of its territorial integrity and the UN Charter, calling for a united international response. Estonian Foreign Minister Margus Tsahkna warned that Russia's actions are part of a broader pattern of regional and global escalations, urging the Security Council to act. This marks the first emergency meeting requested by Estonia in its 34 years of UN membership. Russia denies the violation, claiming its jets flew over international waters en route to Kaliningrad. The European Union and NATO have also condemned the incursion, viewing it as a dangerous provocation amid heightened tensions from Russia's ongoing war in Ukraine. Ukraine has requested to join the meeting to present its perspective, as the Security Council deliberates on the implications of Russia's repeated breaches of international law and threats to European stability. US President Donald Trump has vowed to defend NATO allies Poland and the Baltic states if Russia escalates further, highlighting the gravity of the situation. A deadly exchange of strikes has underscored once again the fragility of the war's front lines. In Crimea, authorities installed by Moscow said a Ukrainian drone hit the resort town of Foros, killing 3 people and wounding at least 16. The blast damaged the grounds of a sanatorium and a nearby school, according to Sergei Aksyonov, head of the Russian-backed administration. Russian officials also reported that falling debris sparked a fire near Yalta. The Defense Ministry denounced the incident as a terrorist attack. Kyiv countered with its own account of devastation. Officials said Russian forces launched 46 strikes across Ukrainian territory on Sunday, September 21st. In Zaporizhzhia, a city in the southeast, bombs dropped overnight killed 2 residents and left 2 others wounded, one in critical condition, according to Ivan Fedorov, who leads the regional military administration. The incidents reflect the grinding pattern of the conflict, where civilian areas on both sides are increasingly caught in the crossfire. Ukrainian forces have repeatedly targeted Crimea, which Russia annexed in 2014 in a move rejected by most of the international community. Moscow, meanwhile, has escalated air assaults on Ukrainian cities as it seeks to consolidate control over occupied territory. The attacks come against a backdrop of faltering diplomacy. After talks with Vladimir Putin last month, US President Donald Trump suggested Ukraine would not be able to reclaim Crimea under any peace arrangement. He later held a separate meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky, but momentum for a truce quickly dissipated. For now, both Moscow and Kyiv remain locked in cycles of strike and reprisal, with little sign of compromise. Crimea, once envisioned as a showcase for Russian control, has instead become one of the war's most contested battlegrounds.